Do you scoff at the idea of $65 silver? Can you even consider the fact that we might just be moving into a new era with a new pricing mechanism for silver when we consider what is going on in the world right now, in China, in their markets with silver? It is astonishing, but there's even more to consider when we think about what's going on domestically in the West with the COMEX and the LBMA. Not to mention, we can look at what a major silver mining company is doing right now to bypass the traditional Western markets for the precious metals and sell directly to consumers. And finally, let's look at what premiums are on the silver price in the West and a lot more. Guys, there's a whole new way developing to determine the price of silver. It's happening right now. Are we about to see 65 or higher dollar per ounce silver? Let's start by talking about what's going on in China. It's all the rage. You've probably already heard there's a huge price difference between silver here in the West and what it's selling for in the Chinese market. Two key acronyms for you to learn because they're going to become more and more important as time goes by. The SGE, the Shanghai Gold Exchange. The SFE, the Shanghai Futures Exchange. Last week alone, we had several instances where the price of silver was 12 or 13% higher on the Shanghai Gold Exchange than it was on the COMEX. What is that telling us? Well, think about this. The Shanghai Gold Exchange is a much more physical market. Yes, imagine that. That actually means that most of the silver that's traded on the Shanghai Gold Exchange is actually backed by real physical silver. Go imagine. What a concept. That's a little different than what we have here in the United States with the COMEX, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. First Mining Gold is a development company advancing two of the largest gold projects in Canada. Springpole in Ontario and Duparquet, located in Quebec, each already has 5 million ounces of gold reserves, but exploration initiatives are underway at both projects to find even more gold. First Mining is well-financed, has zero debt, and owns an interest in 4 additional Canadian gold development projects. The other interesting thing to consider with what's going on in China in this much higher silver price is the fact that a lot of the demand from Chinese sources is industrial. And as their economy continues to expand, yeah, you guessed it, maybe that explains why the Shanghai Gold Exchange is much more physical, because those buyers actually want the metal. They aren't manipulating the price and playing the big games like the bankers play here in the United States. Another real interesting side note regarding silver in China is that their version of Amazon.com is called JD.com, and one of the biggest metal sellers on JD.com, and now don't you forget, that's the Chinese equivalent of Amazon.com. One of the major Chinese sellers was plumb out of silver. What is that telling us in regards to what's going on in the world? And let's zoom back over here to the United States and London with their LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association. The COMEX and the LBMA have traditionally set the price of silver throughout the world. But just consider this, the inventory levels, and particularly the registered inventory levels. That's the metal that can be actually used to settle the outstanding contracts. It has been dropping precipitously. Now, we're not going to say it's at an all-time low and say that, oh, the sky's falling and they're going to default or anything like that. However, the amount of actual metal in the registered category is low or lower on a historical historical basis, in that little bit of metal, maybe 40 million ounces of silver that they actually have in the COMEX vaults that can be used to settle contracts. Oftentimes, there's 30, 40, I've even heard upwards of 300 or 400 contracts written on each one of those ounces. Remember, that's much different than the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is a much more physical market. And speaking of people getting fed up with manipulation on price at the COMEX and the LBMA, we can talk about a major silver producer in the world right now. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out COMEX, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think COMEX is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement. First Majestic Silver, headed by Keith Neumeyer, who just announced that they're starting their own mint in Nevada here in the USA, because First Majestic has traditionally sold silver directly to the retail market. However, they had to rely on other mints, and other mints just couldn't keep up, couldn't provide First Majestic with the finished products that they needed to sell directly to the consumer. So Keith Neumeyer started his own mint in Nevada, and they're even talking about their hopes, their plans to eventually sell 100% of the silver they mine directly to the consumer. Isn't it getting a little crazy right now? Can you start to feel that the pricing mechanism for silver? Look at what Keith Neumeyer's doing. Look at what the Chinese are doing. Another real interesting point on what's going on in China right now is that Hong Kong, many of the gold and silver sellers in Hong Kong have switched from basing their prices off the COMEX and the LBMA. They've switched to using the Shanghai Gold Exchange price. And finally, what discussion on silver price discovery is complete without us talking about premiums that we in the West pay to actually get silver in our hands? Premiums go up and down, but we know over the last year they've been relatively high. Sure, the quoted spot price on the COMEX for silver might be $23 an ounce, but oftentimes we're paying $26 or $27 an ounce to get a finished silver product. Everywhere we look, we see big changes occurring right now in the pricing mechanism for silver. It's going to be super interesting. And when we talk about $65 silver and people scoff at us and think we're crazy and we're pumpers or we're permabulls or whatever they want to call us, don't forget, guys, that in the 70s, the price of silver from its low to its high went up by over 30 times. To get to a $65 silver price, we're just talking about a 3 times increase, and the argument can definitely be made that many of the economic and even geopolitical situations that we're facing right now are very, very similar to what we saw during the 1970s. Finally, we also know the world is splitting, bifurcating right below our very feet. The Eastern countries, the BRICS countries, plus the 6 additional countries joining BRICS come January of 2024, they hold a lot of the world's precious metals. They're buying a lot of the world's precious metals, and they've even talked about starting a shared currency amongst themselves that would be based on precious metals. We'll see how that all plays out. But one thing we know for sure is that those Eastern countries, they hold silver, they hold gold in much, much higher regard than what we have in the West. It's going to be an interesting ride. I'm going to be here for you through it all. I want you to come back. For now, you can go check out a live stream. I'll put up a link here on the screen. Take care, and I'll see you soon.